Welcome to the School of Sexuality. Let's talk about our values, gender equality. Everyone has a body, but no two are the same. Respect, consent, my body is my body. Respect, consent, your body is your body. This is the School of Sexuality.
Over the course of the past few weeks, we have talked about all the different puzzle pieces that add up to make us us. We talked about bodies and how different they all are, how all of us experience attraction to people and that attraction is different for everyone, how we express who we are through things like clothing, art, and language, which is an incredibly personal thing. And lastly, we talked about the many parts of our identity and how it affects the way we experience the world around us. Being authentically who we are can sometimes be difficult. The world around us presents many challenges. Challenges like all of those media messages we receive about who we should be or who we should look like. Or another challenge we can face is other people and their beliefs about us and who they feel we should be or what we should look like. Many times people develop a point of view that is lacking in information. This can cause people to make assumptions and take on stigmatized beliefs. This is called discrimination. Discrimination is when a person is treated differently because of some part of their identity. The most common things people experience discrimination for are things like race, religion, ethnicity, age, disability, body size, sexuality, gender identity, and much, much more. These are normally people who belong to marginalized communities. Marginalized means a group of people who are thought of as outsiders or not considered normal. Some types of discrimination are really obvious, while others are not. But they can all still affect you. Some ways discrimination might happen is when someone calls you hurtful or racist names, or treats you badly or unfairly, commits a hate crime against you, hurts you physically, makes you defend who you are and what you believe in, doesn't respect your identity, beliefs, or opinions, leaves you out on purpose, or hurts you emotionally. Ignorance is a huge problem. Ignorance is the lack of knowledge, education, or awareness of something, and often the refusal to learn. Most of us don't have a formal way to learn about marginalized groups such as LGBTQIA communities. It's not covered in most schools or discussed openly or positively in many families or religious communities. When individuals have no exposure to marginalized communities and the issues that they face, they are left to rely on misinformation and urban legends. When people are ignorant and misinformed, they are more likely to avoid or be afraid of marginalized groups. When people have exposure to all different kinds of people and get to know them as human beings, they are more likely to become comfortable with them. Education and exposure do not cure discrimination. Changing the hearts and minds of individuals is only one step. Institutionalized oppression must be dismantled before we can see real change. This is discrimination at a larger level. Ignorance is not an excuse for stereotyping, bias, or hatred. Individuals have the right to hold personal beliefs and values, but not to discriminate. Values and beliefs are different from fact. It is important for everyone to be fully informed and have factual information about all people, all bodies, all identities, and all sexualities. let's talk about a few common forms of discrimination that a lot of people come up against. Common stereotypes, prejudice, and discrimination. Stereotypes is how we think, prejudice is how we feel, and discrimination is what we do. Heterosexism. Heterosexism is the assumption that everyone is heterosexual and should be. Most people assume, for example, that young women have or wish to have boyfriends, or that young men have or wish to have girlfriends. Heterosexism is also the belief that heterosexuality is the normal and better way to be. Because of heterosexism, people who are heterosexual have greater privileges in society than those who do not, such as the ability to show affection in public without fear of harassment. Homophobia and biphobia. Homophobia is discomfort, dislike, fear, or hatred of non-heterosexual people or the expressions of sexuality that do not conform to heterosexual norms. Biphobia is discomfort, dislike, fear, or hatred specifically of bisexual people, often based on negative stereotypes or the belief that bisexuality doesn't really exist. Both gay and straight people can be biphobic. Racism. Prejudice, discrimination directed against a person or people on the basis of their membership in a particular racial or ethnic group, typically one that is a minority. It is also the belief that different races possess specific characteristics, abilities, or qualities that classify them as inferior. Ableism. Ableism is discrimination and social prejudice against people with disabilities and/or people who are perceived to be disabled. Ableism characterizes people with disabilities as inferior to non-disabled. Ageism refers to the stereotypes, prejudice, and discrimination towards others or oneself based on age. Ageism affects everyone. Fat phobia is the fear and hatred of fat bodies. That encompasses a whole bunch of things, namely bias and weight stigma, such as the idea that we see people of higher body weight as lazy and unintelligent or disgusting. There's many ways that discrimination hurts people. For example, making people feel isolated, unhappy, and lonely. Making people feel excluded, maybe even in communities they thought would embrace them. Making people more likely to use alcohol and drugs. Inducing them to lie and hide who they are. Putting them at risk of verbal, physical, and sexual abuse. Putting them at risk for being bullied in person or online. Making them feel unsafe in school, at home, and in other settings. Making them more likely to skip classes, cut school, or drop out to avoid harassment, which can lead to lower grades and inability to attend college. Putting them at risk for family rejection, running away, homelessness, or placement in foster care.
Taking School of Sexuality's classes could have some side effects. Side effects may include, but are not limited to, new ideas, confusion, happiness, communication skills, urges to be yourself, self-love, better friendships, new values, excitement, confidence, compassion, discernment, sympathy, tolerance, thoughtfulness, respect, and big questions. For any questions you may have, contact us immediately.